Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This is actually going to be episode 15, our second episode for this week, because we wanted you to have some more fun along with our interview with Michael Yu. So we just wanted you to have some more of the stuff that you've been blowing up my DMs for. So this week, we're going to be talking about the big set of rumors that came about from the socials, from Reddit of all places. Apparently, they released a big compiling of all the rumors, all the scoops, all the leaks that have been coming out, and it basically completely blew up among certain circles. And we want to talk about it, from the rumors that the Justice League movie is going to be an adaptation, a modern day adaptation of The New Frontier, to a Mr. Terrific movie, Animal Man, Lobo, Poison Ivy, and all the other fun stuff. So let's get into it and let's talk about what on earth is going on with the DCU, according to the rumors. And here we are. Another week, more DC content.
Again. I'm ready. Let's start up the rumor mill. I love some fake news. Where are we going?
Let's just jump right into it, because it's a lot of fun stuff, a lot of crazy stuff. But also, we're going to do something a little different at the end, too, because at the end, one of the things I brought up earlier this week was that I wanted everyone to have a Q&A round that we could do live. And I asked someone a handful of questions, said, hey, tell me what you want me to answer on air. And I got a bunch of responses. So we are going to go over those at the end. First and foremost, I have a problematic history with Reddit because Reddit, like 4chan, like every other one of those platforms, you will get some accuracies. That's 100% true. But you will also get a lot of people posing as other things. And then you'll get, it's like one of those, it's hard to really validate. And what this
are you telling me that people on the internet pretend to be other people?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, this is breaking news.
On DCEU leaks, this very popular subreddit of Reddit, they had basically every once in a while they do a week of compiling all the news, and this actually came about before April Fool's Day. So this is not part of the April Fool's pranks, because there were some fun ones that came out on Saturday, and people are still asking
April's
me if they're true.
Fools. It ruins everything. It ruins especially everything. In a world of where we're waiting for more news. All of those rumors are also like testing points to see if maybe these should be things.
Yes, 100%. It's super dumb. So some of the big ones over the weekend that for April Fool's Day was one, the Flash Film News is a buddy of mine. I actually know the guy who runs it. Great dude. He posted a thing about how the Flash was being delayed so they could incorporate the DCU casting into the finale of the movie.
That's nonsense.
Everyone lost their minds. And then like 5 hours later, they posted April Fool's Gotcha. It was really fun. Another one.
They need that movie to make money so they can pay people's paychecks.
Right. Another one that was a little annoying was that somebody posted that the Snyderverse is 100% continuing. A lot of people thought it was real, because the great problem is that April Fool's Day, even though it's an American holiday, the rest of the world doesn't see that. Another one that came about was someone said that James Gunn is actively declining offers from Universal's, Netflix, and so on to buy the Snyderverse, and that was another bit of nonsense. So it was a lot of fun nonsense and a lot of like damage control that day. I tend to not post on April Fool's Day because I hate it on principle.
Anything you post, if you post something significant, people will accuse you of lying, right? Like if it's actually something, they won't believe you, and then if it is something real, you then are just going to spend the whole time defending it.
Okay, now let's get into the rumors. First and foremost, they said this is from the unverified sources section. So these are just a handful of things that were unverified, but they're going to put them out there. So if it does happen, cool.
Who said these things? This is just some person wrote these things.
No, so what the moderator for this channel does is once a week they go through all of the scoopers, all of the claims, and just compiles a list of everything.
Okay.
So some of it actually is real, some of it isn't. I'm not a scooper. I'm not going to be the person that does it. So I'm just going to throw it out on the wall. And when it all happens, hopefully everyone will be happy about it.
Is this more leaks than usual? Is there a reason why there's an abundance of these things right now? Is that because of April Fools, or these just happen to all be bubbling up at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. First and foremost, the thread starts with there are at least 10 projects in development for DCU Chapter 1 that have not been publicly announced. That is true, but the number is closer to 15. All right. 6 of these yet to be announced projects are as following: Superman versus the Authority, Peacemaker Season 2, which was already revealed, so I don't know why that's on this list, Lobo, Animal Man, Mr. Terrific, and Justice League: The New Frontier. So they announced these, they put these 6 in this list. One of them has legitimately already been announced. It was announced months ago, so I don't know why it's on this list, but whatever. The stipulation, Justice League: The New Frontier will be the conclusion of DCU Chapter 1. And this project will have the same heroes, villains, and story as the source material, but it will be set in modern day. So according to that, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and the villains being the center. Okay. And we talked about this before. I talked about this when James Gunn teased the News Frontier, and I kind of said that, yeah, this is probably a thing that's happening, and so on. So a lot of these rumors come about from his teases and what people are assuming these teases are actually indicating.
The original one is World War II, correct?
It was actually post World War II. It was in the 60s. JFK was president in that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then they can put that in any time.
They can modernize it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, another part of this rumor, Creature Commandos will feature Dinosaur Island and the Center, which is possible. Because
is Dinosaur Island a known spot on DC Earth?
It's actually a main plot point for the New Frontier. Dinosaur Island is where the losers ended up in the prologue and where they all died.
Right, but I'm saying in like other, like, is it referenced? Okay, no. So it's for this place.
It's for this place because that's kind of where the center is. It's kind of that. It's essentially the center.
Why not have a DC universe with dinosaurs in it? Like, that's fine. I'm fine with that. Whatever.
The Authority is set sometime in the past and will also feature the center. And the obvious, like, the Authority comes out, and then the sequel to the Authority and the sequel to Superman Legacy is Superman versus the Authority. Not Justice League versus the Authority, but it's Superman versus the Authority.
So the question that we should be asking, and I would like to hear more of these rumors, do you think that this is the plot point they're going to go with? Do you think that this center, or do you think this is all based on this one guy, this one anonymous poster? This is all now based off that thing.
I think the Justice League New Frontier stuff is very possible because, one, James Gunn has teased the New Frontier a few times. 2, it's actually a fantastic starting point to introduce it all. And we talked about it before, actually, when I talked about how what if the Green Lantern TV show, where it's the True Detective style, is about like the Rot or the Center or things like that. And I mentioned that it would be a fantastic starting point for the gods and monsters, because the Center is essentially the monster of the monsters.
And also, a T-Rex is a monster, and people love T-Rexes on film. Yeah. I think a T-Rex Island sounds fun.
Right. And so then the next subsection for this post, Gunn's meetings and statuses of characters and actors. Gunn has had meetings with the entire Justice League cast, excluding Ray Fisher, which everyone is already speculating that Ray Fisher has been basically blacklisted because of his constant I'm going to go against WB. I'm going to hold them accountable. And then he started attacking James Gunn. And then that didn't go well with him, apparently, according to Reddit.
Yeah, it sounds like he talked himself out of a job.
The next set point, he offered Henry Cavill and Jason Momoa new roles. Henry stormed out angry. Jason happily accepted it. I don't think Henry stormed out angry. I think that's kind of an exaggeration. Jason happily accepting it sounds very real because I mean, they put Lobo on this list. If that's real, Jason's got that role. So,
sure.
Next subsect, he offered Ben Affleck to direct. He said yes.
Yeah.
Ben just said last week that that's not real, unless it is real, and Ben was just
I think Ben's right that no contracts have been signed, but it sure sounds real to me.
The way I also kind of look at it is that, like I said last time, was that Ben said, no, I'm not directing anything for the DCU. That didn't mean he said no to directing something for DC or Elseworlds. That's always been my...
Or Warner Brothers are doing some tangential comic book movie that's like Road to Perdition. It's like, yeah, that's a comic book. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's got that DC label on it. We just won't
sure.
put it in our thing. Yeah. We do not know what Gal Gadot was offered. It could be continuing playing Wonder Woman or a new character. It's, again, hearsay speculation. Ezra Miller is on the fence. They told WB that they would wear the Flash branded ankle monitor to track their every step and show they're getting better. That sounds more hearsay than anything else.
Well, the problem with Ezra Miller's stuff is their people are very good at saying all of those things, but the actions always are crazy. So hopefully there's a good in between.
And this is where the next bits start to make less sense, because this is how the Reddit post is putting it out. The Suicide Squad is technically the first DCU movie and is now retroactively made a full reboot, no longer soft. So when it comes to the DCU EU connections in Gunn's prior work, you should just ignore them. Makes zero sense, because the Suicide Squad started referencing with these characters, right? You had Captain Boomerang and Harley that had ties to Ben Affleck's Batman. You had the intro where basically Bloodsport, because initially it was supposed to be Deadshot. Bloodsport put Superman in the ICU. So again, Superman. So if the DCU is starting here, the main lead character put a character in the hospital that hasn't been established yet. So that's more nonsense. No word yet on Birds of Prey, but Suicide Squad is not canon whatsoever, despite the fact that most of those characters from the first movie did reappear in the second movie. So that seems a little weird.
I think anything with Birds of Prey is dead. That no one's going back and doing anything with that.
Right, but at the same time, it's just it was Birds of Prey was part of the Suicide Squad. I mean, you had the Suicide Squad 1, Harley gets captured.
Oh,
Birds of Prey comes out.
Oh, you considered that a Suicide Squad 0.5 movie?
It was, because they even talked about it in the beginning of the movie. She broke out of jail, she got free, and then she broke up, and then she got caught again, and that's how she was in the Suicide Squad. So, like, it's literally a bridge point between those two movies.
Right.
So you're saying that one is canon and the other two are not seems kind of silly, because they're all part of that story.
Yeah, I think this is people nitpicking. This is all going to be thrown out the window, unfortunately. And it's not going to be handled like that. It's going to be nice, but like, there's no like, oh, this thing is and this thing isn't. No. All of this has to go. I just saw a great trailer for the Blue Beetle. None of that's making its way into this.
It might, actually. It might. And I'll tell you why after we're done here.
Okay.
So the next point, Margot Robbie's Harley is safe because Gunn loves her. That's speculative.
Maybe.
It could be.
I'll let you know this, though. She will demand the salary, her old salary. She will want what she is getting before, and it feels like they got rid of a lot of those people.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Everyone who appeared in the Suicide Squad is safe because they loved working with them all, except for the fact that most of those characters died.
Right, so, they're all gone.
Peacemaker Season 1 continues directly into Waller, which then continues into Peacemaker Season 2, which is 100% true, because that's what the previous studio bought and paid for before the new stuff came in.
Right, that was already what was being established. That's what that show was leading up to.
Next points, updates regarding the Batman sequel. So these are another ones that are kind of like, okay.
Well, like, what do you mean? They're not doing it. Nothing's happening.
Exactly. The movie starts filming in November of this year.
Okay. That's a long time away.
All right. And this is the quotes. This is how they validate the source. I work for an editorial and research department for Aquino Queen's artistic company, which is partially owned by Fandango Media, based in Illinois. Almost 2 weeks ago, our primary department received a project named Fear 1.26. Yeah. It was about one of the upcoming movies in Warner Bros. I don't know much about that. So that was just a lot of, here's how to validate my source by throwing out a bunch of stuff. So it doesn't even pertain to any of this, which I don't know why they even include this in this thread.
And the also, Batman movie is called something about fear.
That's what they're implying, yeah.
Okay.
Also, last year when I was in Ireland for an event regarding the comic artistry, I got a glimpse of Mattinson Tomlin, one of the writers for the movie. Then we were asking different questions. Someone from the crowd asked him about the Batman 2 antagonist. He smiled and said, "Do you think it's by coincidence that we are here on this bridge?"
So it's going to be a goblin? It's going to be a gargoyle?
Everything that they listed in that section for the updating the Batman sequel, it's okay.
What are they implying? What's in
nothing? That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
Like
okay.
It seems like they just threw this stuff out there and like maybe someone can figure out what this means. I'm like, it doesn't mean anything, dude.
Maybe it means. Is there a famous actor that lives in that town?
So one of the things that we did get this last week was this this very speculative Deadline article where they said Clayface was pitched as a solo movie, kind of like Joker. And then
do they want to use Clayface to get metahumans into the DC and like really establish something?
Wait for it. So in this article, they talked about this is a happening thing, blah blah blah, and then in the same article, they just like kind of like a throwaway line saying it may not happen because apparently Matt Reeves is looking at doing this.
Oh, okay.
Right?
That's a very different Clayface. If we get a Clayface with that Batman, that's a way more down to earth. Like, oh, he just like sheds his skin or something like that.
Yeah. So Flanagan was the one who they said basically Dr. Sleep director Flanagan basically had pitched this thing, and in the article they said, let me see if I can find the exact line. Okay, because there was a kind of a throwaway line in that article where they mentioned that he was going to be in this thing.
Dr. Sleep should have been a miniseries.
Dr. Sleep director's cut was amazing. The theatrical cut was not so great.
Yeah, I wish that there was I wish there was season. I wish I could take breaks in between. I think it would be better if it had credits at the end of each and every part of it.
Okay, I will find it. Okay, Mike Flanagan pitches pick on Clayface to Warner Brothers. It's part of the dish. In the article, they at the very end they kind of threw it out there, saying, let me see if I can find the exact line because they just kind of, it was just this very small throwaway line where they say, if he doesn't make this movie, Matt Reeves is reportedly using him as a central key character in the Batman 2. And it was, oh, there it is. That said, other sources are telling us that scripts are constantly changing and that Clayface is a big addition to Matt Reeves' The Batman 2. Let's wait until the dust settles here and something moves forward. It remains to be seen whether Clayface is a connection between the Batman 2 Elseworlds or what Gunn and doing in their own DC Gods and Monsters Chapter 1. The whole article was actually very, very speculative. And even Mike Flanagan took to Twitter afterwards saying, hey, if there's news to be told, I will tell it to you when it's news. So he basically was like, eh. So
I don't know if that's I mean, we're going to have to move the time, like whatever. Like, what year is this what was Batman Year One? I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand how you fit that world into whatever this other thing you were building. That's a very grounded world.
And that's the tricky part, because a lot of people are like, oh, so, and my first thought was how Gotham terribly did Clayface. And it was just an inmate who had this like chemical reaction and he could just like mold his face any way he wanted it. And he didn't transform or anything. It was essentially Chameleon from the Spider-Man comics.
I hate to say it that I don't know Clayface in comics, but I do know Saturday morning cartoons. And when I think of Clayface, I think of like this hulking thing, this like one of Batman's most villainous mutants that he fights. You know what I mean? Like suffocating him to death and making sledgehammers and stuff like that, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It's very weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it, because if it actually happens, then okay, let's see what Matt Reeves does to it. If it doesn't happen, then it gives, I don't know, it just seems weird that Matt Reeves is so like Matt Reeves's thing was to be just as grounded as Chris Nolan, but to use more comic elements. I mean, in the first movie, we got Falcone, we got the Penguin, we got Catwoman, we got Riddler, we even got Tweedledee and Tweedledum in the most ridiculous blink you miss it sort of cameo of all time.
We got a fake Robin. We don't get Robin in that movie, but we have like the seeds of being like, what if he takes care of a kid?
Yeah, like they obviously teased it, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens because we have essentially the Penguin TV show is like already casted every version of the Holiday Killer that was in the comics.
Has there ever been a Clayface where it's like he just makes masks out of clay and then he wears them?
Kind of, but not really. So I mean
you're
essentially what we're gonna get is a bad guy version of Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, where he just makes faces and then goes out and kills people and then takes it off and then goes off and pretends to not be that thing. Like it just seems like I know a lot of people were very loving and accepting of the Zodiac Killer, aka the Riddler, but I think if anything, if Clayface isn't what Clayface is, it may not work, and fans aren't going to be happy with it.
Yeah, and if it's any of those other things, make it a different. I mean, I don't know. Do you think fans would be okay with a movie-only villain if we saw a character that was an amalgamation of maybe 2 or 3 things, and it's its own thing? Because you're right, Clayface is a very specific thing in my mind, and even if that's the third act of the movie, you got to bump up Batman's power level, and maybe that is the connective tissue to that other world. Because Batman to fight a Clayface, we're talking electricity suit. I mean, I don't know what I mean, robot suit. I mean, how else does he take care of this thing?
I don't know. It's very weird. And as the article, as the post goes on, there's a few more points before we kind of delve into it more.
I'll let you go on, but I'm thinking about again. We saw year 1. If we're gonna see year 2, you're telling me now he has robot suits? Like, no,
that what we got was technically year 2. So year 3, apparently he goes from being what he was in that movie, clearly just like some grumpy vigilante that
isn't the next movie supposed to be the Bat Boat? Didn't the whole city flood? Aren't we going to see him in a Bat Boat doing Bat Boat things?
I honestly thought like the whole city flooding would perfectly set up Mr. Freeze, because he can literally freeze everything, and having a flooded city is fantastic for that idea. Like,
you could also do, it's so funny because I'm sure I saw in the picture you sent me Poison Ivy stuff. You can literally put Poison Ivy like in any Batman. Like, yep, there's enough water to grow mega plants.
That's actually part of this. So, from the verified sources, which they don't say who the sources are, but it's a lot of just other scoopers that are batting okay. Some have great track records. Some really don't, but is what it is. People say that you're verified. They say Grace Randolph is verified, even though James Gunn publicly debunks her in real time.
Okay. So, a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right. The Authority has a writer, Jeremy Slater, and Matthew Vaughn is in talks to direct. If that's true, fantastic. I'm actually all board with that because that sounds fun. The Reevesverse spinoffs are in development, which will have Clayface, which we just talked about, the Scarecrow, and Poison Ivy. And this Poison Ivy project is stated to be inspired by the short story Rappaccini's Daughter. I've never pronounced it right. Basically, that short story is a girl whose father is like a botanist, and growing up next to all these toxic plants makes her skin toxic.
Yeah.
So pretty straightforward. Another one from the verified sources.
Sound like mutants. I mean, it kind of is that way, but they're not. That to me is a very grounded version of Poison Ivy. That's not. Poison Ivy is also a character that from Saturday morning cartoons, she controls plants. She fights Swamp Thing. She has crazy powers.
Right. I mean, in the first Batman animated series viewing that we saw of her, she was just a crazy plant lady who was a crazy botanist who learned how to make toxins with her lipstick and grow monstrous plants. And then as the show did its soft reboot, when they introduced Superman and all the other characters, she then could control plants. So they've always started her off as very grounded and then turned her into something else. Anyways, Superman Legacy. Jimmy Olsen is being cast right now. Casting calls have been sent out. And then James Gunn has already publicly said that hasn't been a thing yet. So that's another thing on this list that's wrong. They said, as Gunn recently stated, the casting range is not limited to people in their 20s, like Ray Randolph had claimed. This is because the casting range for Jimmy is 20s to 30s. But as said, they haven't put out a casting. They literally just hired the casting director this weekend. So hiring the casting director and then getting a casting call put out within 48 hours is insane.
No, that person has to get a company badge to get on the lot. That person
they already have one. They've worked with Warner Brothers in DC before, so it's not a big deal.
Okay.
And then casting calls for Lex Luthor have also been sent out. Again, James Gunn has been publicly debunked that. So everyone who's been saying, "Oh my God, this DCU leaks thread is crazy," I look at it, and more than 50 to 60% of it is just straight nonsense because
and the other stuff is already written, is already stuff that's been announced,
right? And a lot of it is just speculative, like, oh, let's Lobo, Animal Man, Mr. Terrific. These are all going to be movies because James Gunn has teased pictures with those characters. So yes, of course, that's what's happening. But on the likelihood that this is real, right? Animal Man would be pretty cool. Mr. Terrific.
Who's Animal Man? What does Animal Man do?
Oh, so Animal Man, let me pull up a picture.
I'm just picturing the Animal Titan from Attack on Titan. I'm just picturing the one who could throw rocks like fastballs.
Okay, yeah, no, not at all. Let me pull up Animal Man.
Is he like Beast? Is he like Beast from X-Men?
Oh, like ridiculously no.
Is he a classic, like Silver Age hero? Is he like one of the OGs?
Kind of, yes. So Ant-Man first appeared back in the 60s, so he's technically part of that era. He, as a character, let's see, Animal Man is Buddy Baker, Bernard Buddy Baker. Let's see, what are his powers? Let's kind of just talk about who he is.
His powers are to wear a black jacket and look good in it.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
So Animal Man, his ability is to gain the powers of any animal that exists or has existed via access to the red. And that's actually something more akin to Swamp Thing. So Animal Man is very similar to the character Vixen. Vixen gets her powers to summon animal strength from her amulet. He is just straight up a metahuman that can call on animal powers.
Can he talk to animals? Because I'm going to let you know, people love talking animal movies.
No. He is a man with animal powers, as he is stated in the quotes from the comics.
He's very cool, and if he can, is he as long as he knows about it, can he like research dinosaurs? Like, how does?
Yeah, no. And that's always been the funny thing about it. If he's like, if this dinosaur is real, then I can summon his power, kind of a thing. Like, if the animal was real, he can summon his power.
Does he have a dragon? Are dragons real?
Sure, but the way I see that this is possible, Animal Man would actually be a very fantastic addition to a Gods and Monsters / The New Frontier kind of a story where you have the center who's been existing since the dinosaur ages, who has created an island where it preserves dinosaurs. And now you have a character who gains the power of any animal that's ever existed. He could become a pawn for the center, or he could fight the center head on by summoning the powers of the center. So lots of fun stuff there. The other one they talked about was Lobo. And obviously, Lobo has been teased since the very beginning.
A whole bunch. And Jason Momoa has been teasing Lobo. He's been teasing it on his Instagram.
Exactly. So it would make a lot of sense if that was very real. And the other one is Mr. Terrific. Not sure if you know anything about Mr. Terrific. Do you?
Is he the one from the future?
No, that's Mr. Gold. So Mr. Terrific, Michael Holt, he was... what's the best way to describe his power? He is just insanely smart.
Oh, right? Okay.
He's got genius level intellect. He is one of the smartest characters in the DC universe. He created these things called T-spheres, these little balls that fly around him. Aside from that, he's also was trained. I think he was trained by Wildcat, like the same guy who trained Batman and Black Canary. So he is an expert fighter, but he also is a genius. Most of the time in the comics, you see him manning the Watchtower.
Great.
And being like the ultimate.
Oh, so that means we don't get Green Arrow at the Watchtower. But if they're talking about Mr. Terrific, then they are talking Watchtower. And yeah, let's get a genius in the universe. Let's get somebody to make cool shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, let me see. Here's some more details about him.
Who drew that picture?
This character has 14 PhDs, 2 in engineering and physics, including doctorates and master's degrees in law, psychology, chemistry, political science, computer science, rocket science, and mathematics. He is a self-made multimillionaire, has a high-tech firm called Cyberware, subsequently sold to Wayne Tech, so he has ties to Batman right there. And he is a gold medal winning Olympic decathlete.
Is he also a hero from the 50s?
Let's see. No, 1997. He's 90s.
Wow.
He's a more recent character.
I like all of that, and I like the idea of getting a genius into that universe, because who's their other resident genius? I mean, it's
some
Batman.
fun other details about the character. The accidental death of his wife and unborn child dealt a devastating blow to Holt. He considered himself responsible for the accident, as he made his wife late for church by arguing about the value of religion in their household. So she got it right. While contemplating suicide, he is met and confronted by the Spectre, who tells him about Terry Sloan, the Golden Age superhero known as Mr. Terrific. So there was another Mr. Terrific from the Golden Age.
Hot dog!
Inspired by Sloan's life story, he takes on the mantle and later joins the JSA.
That JSA connection is also the thing that's ringing alarm bells. That reminds me of a Watchmen character. That reminds me of something, you know what I mean? Something else.
So, I mean, he's definitely a pretty cool character. There was a really...
are his spheres named after his dead wife and son?
No, he's got like 6 of them, and they fly around him and do stuff for him.
He has he has 6 dead wives, and they all fly around him?
No, so it's very much, like that scene in X-Men where Magneto's floating around with the balls around him and attacking things?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, and then he's also just a dude who can punch as well.
Yeah, and he's also he's crazy smart. He's got a bunch of and these spheres can also hack into things, scan things. Like they're pretty rad right off the bat. But again,
the universe that all of these characters though are showing me is much bigger than Matt Reeves' Batman.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot there, realistically. And as this all kind of goes on, let me pull up another picture of some stuff that came about. And this is why, and this is 100% why I believe this is a thing. All right?
Because I like Animal Man now. I'm ready for some more Animal Man stories.
Honestly, Google him. Read some stuff about him. He's got some really cool stories.
Cool.
This was a tweet that James made on the 29th of last month. And this picture, he no context. He just threw it out there. This is why people like, oh, Mr. Terrific is a thing that's happening because he's right there at the bottom. The other cool things, you have pretty much Batman, Superman, Shazam, Swamp Thing, the Green Lanterns. Literally every character that's been rumored to be involved is right there, front and center. Which
who's in the top right corner?
Black
Canary.
Yeah, Black Canary.
Okay, there's
Black Canary and Green Arrow.
And then who's in the
Aquaman,
back?
The 2 Green Lanterns, Hawk Girl, Deathstroke, Superman, Shazam, Catwoman, Batgirl, Batman, Swamp Thing, Robin, Raven from the Titans, Harley Quinn, The Flash. Yeah, there's a ton of characters here.
Who's in the back underneath Wonder Woman's foot to the right of Harley Quinn running at us?
I can't tell.
Okay.
It's blurry for me too. Let me see if I can pull up James Gunn's original tweet.
Maybe it's Kid Flash. Batman just chilling on Swamp Thing. Who's behind Swamp Thing? There's a monster behind
monster behind him, or you talking about
in Batman? Batman's holding a loop
underneath Batman's little shoulder there. That looks like Killer Croc, to be honest. But let me see if I can pull up the high res of that one myself, because it's
and there's not Wasp. What is their version? what is DC's version?
That's Killer Croc. Where'd you say Wasp?
Above Batman's there's wings, or is that Blue Beetle?
That honestly looks like it could either be Blue Beetle or Bumblebee.
Okay.
I do see Firestorm is above Superboy right there. It's a very interesting little cryptic photo. One thing that I definitely liked is
Who's the guy in
Like,
gray? Who's the
which
gray
one?
face? To the right of Mr.
Oh,
Terrific.
the gray face with the
Yeah, the alien face.
that is, oh my goodness, I just totally forgot his name. Um, Metamorpho. That's him.
And what does he do?
Oh, Metamorpho is exactly as he sounds. Honestly, Metamorpho is a really fantastically cool character because he's kind of just like. There's a really fun episode of Justice League where you can watch it and just see how horrific his story is.
Great.
He essentially has superhuman strength, hyperelectricity. He's effectively immortal, and he can also transmutate his body parts into different elements. He was a guy named Rex Mason, and in the cartoon, Simon Stagg, the character that was notoriously from Batman comics, basically Rex was dating his daughter. He didn't like that he existed, tried to kill him in a lab experiment, and it turned him into that.
Whoa. And that's another connection to Batman.
Yes. But this character is also very notoriously known for not being a part of the Justice League or anything else. He's actually part of the Outsiders. And the Outsiders is a team that was essentially like Batman's outcast team. You had like Metamorpho, Black Lightning, Katana, people like that were all ending up on the Outsiders.
Do you think he'd put Plastic Man and Catwoman on that team?
Well, Plastic Man's right there in the middle.
Yeah, Plastic Man's right there.
So the bottom line is that if this list, if he just put this picture out there, and if all of those characters end up in this chapter 1, that's a great list of characters.
There's no no Martian Manhunter.
There's not, but it's we're kind of assuming that he's going to be there anyways. But you have 2 Green Lanterns, which we know the show is going to be about. You got Aquaman, you got Wonder Woman, you got Deathstroke, you got the Flash, Harley Quinn, Hawk Girl, Black Canary, Green Arrow, Mr. Terrific.
Guy with guns is the assassin.
That's Deathstroke, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a very cool list, kind of across the board.
Shazam is there, but Shazam is in the background, which means we're getting Shazam in like 3 years. Yo, why aren't we talking about why is a Hollywood Reporter writing articles about Zach Levi having meltdowns online?
Because it's like all bad news is good news kind of a thing. Like, regardless of what actually happened, it's clickbait. Because Zach, we talked about this at length. What everything that they're declaring happened is very the opposite of what really happened.
Infuriating.
Yeah, it's very ridiculous. But let the media be the media, because that's how they get their jollies lately.
Who's the lady again? Who was the person to the left of Metamorpho?
I couldn't figure that one. It actually looked like Dr. Light to me, because there was a Dr. Light lady, but it could have also been
like Wonder Man, but like the other Wonder Man, right? Remember I don't know. There's lots of strong people.
She was a member. I've seen her before. I just can't. I honestly, it looked like Dr. Light to me, because Dr. Light did have a female good guy counterpart. Dr. Light notoriously in the comics was a bad guy, and then later in the 90s we found out he was a rapist and they lobotomized him.
And that picture didn't show any Suicide Squad. There's all these.
There's Harley Quinn in the corner, but that's
right. But it didn't show any Authority stuff.
No,
it didn't show that cartoon. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, there's a lot more heroes coming. This is an amazing. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff on this, on the rumors on the Twitter sphere, and I think the reason why these things are happening, and just like what keeps happening, is that James Gunn. Right now, the studio is locked tight because everything is by James Gunn and Peter Safran. So all these scoopers are having to dig this information out based on hearsay. And so on Reddit, you have all these leaks and all these confirmed tweets and all this stuff. And then James Gunn himself is dropping them and saying, no, that's not real. That's not real. Because unlike before, we talked about this before, like when Zach was in running the DC story, the plot lines, you had essentially what you had. You had Zack Snyder, you had his wife, you had Chuck Roven, you had Michael Uslan, you had all these different people that were all in the production, and there's so many avenues of a leak. And because of that, scoopers came out a dime a dozen, because everyone who knew anybody, there was a leak. And
Right. There's two guys who are in charge of all of this.
Right. And if they're not saying anything publicly, that's it. So what they're doing now is James is tweeting a picture and people are connecting the dots, right? So Mr. Terrific is more than likely, because this is the second or third image of Mr. Terrific that he has shared on social media in the last 6 months. So that's pretty real.
Great. I'm so happy to have a Mr. Terrific. I'm so happy that he gets to make the cut. I'm so happy that we're bringing in new lifeblood into this legacy people.
Yeah, and James Gunn has talked very at length that he is a giant comic book nerd, and he is. He really is. And the idea that he is going to pull out a lot of these, like obviously Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
He canonized Batmite in Peacemaker. He went out of his way to make sure that everybody knew this was in canon.
But at the same time, how did Peacemaker learn about it? On internet forums.
Yes.
Okay, right. The idea was that some of these obscure characters exist because Peacemaker is like a 4chan warrior who's like sitting there reading the internet and believing everything he reads.
Guess what?
So lots of fun.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But there's a lot of cool stuff there. But one thing I wanted to show you, Michael, because we're at 45 minutes and I didn't want to overdo it today.
Okay.
Have you seen what has happened?
No, I did adulting all day. This is me finding out all the things. Show me what I need to know. Are you ready for this? Yeah, I'm ready. Is it Goku? All right.
No. Ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Blockbuster.com relaunched.
Yeah, my mom's...
Wait for it. We are working at rewinding your movie, right? Best part about it is if you look at the metadata for it, it literally says Blockbuster video stores and on-demand movies.
Yeah. This is all. I don't understand where they're milking this nostalgia from. I worked at Blockbuster for a very long time. There's nothing they can sell. Brick and mortar is dead. What are they gonna do? What are they supposed to sell? That store up in Oregon is trying to sell as much candy as they can to stay open. Okay, it's Washington. It's wherever that last store was.
Oregon. Yeah.
Okay. But it's very difficult to do it. What are they going to sell?
Movies. I hear your point. But you also have to look at what's been happening lately on the media. Thanks to the pandemic, we all overloaded the internet and saw the limitations of streaming. And now you have comments coming from David Zaslav and now Bob Iger from Disney saying that they need to renew the usage of physical media. And they want to push out physical media as being the number one go-to, and streaming should be secondary. So I could see them coming back with almost kind of like a Suncoast video style video store. And they being kind of a niche market. People want to buy their physical media. There's the best place to get it. They'll have exclusives.
Totally heard. But you're not going to go there to buy anything. You will go through your normal channels to purchase these things. And then is Blockbuster going to get exclusives?
I think so. I think Blockbuster would get kind of like how Best Buy is, where Best Buy gets exclusive steelbooks and stuff like that. Best Buy has actually been dropping their physical media, and people are mad that who do buy physical media are like, I want to buy my exclusive steelbooks, and you guys are not carrying stuff in stores anymore. So I could see Blockbuster coming back and doing what if they did we have video game rentals because Redbox is the big one for that, or Gamefly or whatever. And we do video game rentals, we do movie rentals, and we also have a giant store where we just sell videos and video memorabilia. Here's a Funko wall. Here's this kind of a wall.
I hear you. I just think retail's hard, and I just don't know what those numbers are. I worked at Blockbuster, and and selling that stuff was difficult. And you're right that there is what's funny is the answer is video games. The one thing that sells, and those services are really good. But the quality of the disc just gets so messed up in the mail that if you could have a place to build that community, listen, I'm not against it being a thing. I just think about all of those challenges, and I just don't see what that world is. Unless maybe they're renting the stores for events. Are comedians going to go do events there? Could we do a podcast from a Blockbuster? I don't know what else they do to promote that.
The fact is, what a lot of people are seeing now is that nostalgia is taking front and center because people your and my age, where we grew up, the millennials, or what? Because we used to be at one point Gen Y, but then they relabeled us as millennials. That's fine.
Yeah, we got lumped in, but that's fine. Gen Y is that other one.
Yeah, no, because Gen X was everyone born like 2 or 3 years before us.
Yeah, all the older kids.
Then we started Gen Y, and then millennials hugged ours, and then they just bumped us all in together. So it goes Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and I'm like, but
there was just so many of us. Our parents all had babies at the same time. There was just so many kids.
But this chunk of people, we all loved Blockbuster Video, and we all clamor for it to return. And the moment you see a Blockbuster open up down the street, people will show up on nostalgia only. It's a thing. I mean, you have these, like, our whole generation is the generation of nostalgia. That's what we do. We make things successful by wanting to live it our childhood again.
Right. But you also have to understand, I mean, there's a reason why our generation is like this. Like every 2 years or 3 years, there's a national tragedy or a once in a lifetime thing. You know what I mean? Like 9/11 was a thing that everyone dealt with. They played it in the classroom at school. You know, the 08.
Michael, we were in high school when it was happening live on TV.
I saw it in my freshman year. My freshman year of high school. They played it in Miss Barry's English class. Couldn't believe it. I was like, great. Yeah, she was so mean. She was an awful woman.
I remember her. Yep.
I hear you. I hear you. I just I wish them the best of luck. You tell me, is there in a normal town, do you think if they're selling McFarlane toys, DC tie-in comic books, candy, video, I mean, do you think they can make a profit?
I think so. I mean, legitimately, if Blockbuster Video comes back as just Blockbuster, doesn't say Blockbuster Video, just Blockbuster, and they sell movies, video games, and comic books, there will be a market there. Because you would create a franchisable comic book store, a franchisable video game rental store.
They're going to sell soda. You're going to sell popcorn. You're going to sell candy. All right. That's all there. Then you sell that other stuff. Do you put screening rooms? Do you have people? Maybe you do like 30 seats and you rent it out with your friends to play Tekken really big.
That'd be fun. But at the same time, remember I said the metadata also included and video on demand. So for people who want the old ways, they're probably going to have an app where you can rent movies for cheaper than Amazon and Vudu and all the other.
Oh, you think like a Redbox online?
Yeah, because Redbox is what, like $1 a day, right? Is that how it is?
Yes.
Something like
which is because of all of these things. At the end, Blockbuster was forced to compete with those types of things and never could. Never, the moment people were doing, $1 a disc a day, they just couldn't do it, especially with a staff. I'm not a robot, people. I have to eat lunch.
And so what happens is you have Amazon, Vudu, Apple TV. They rent movies for 24 hours is like $3.99. So if Blockbuster comes in and says, we'll do $2 a day, or if you do a week, we'll give it to you for $6 or something.
You can't do it for you can't rent physical media. The video games is maybe the only thing you can do. Nobody is going to rent a movie and bring it back. It's not doable. We don't live in that world. But an on-demand option is very interesting. So then are they selling tablets because near the end, I was selling DirecTV subscriptions.
Yeah.
and PlayStation 4s. You know what I mean?
We are all very speculative right now off of a new website with 2 bullet points of metadata. Like that's all we're trying to figure out what's happening. But the bottom line is it sounds like Blockbuster is trying to do something, and I'm kind of intrigued.
They're going to open it in New York or LA or Chicago or some big city, and you're right. They're going to do numbers. Can they do it for a year? I don't know. But if they can figure out a reason to get people in the store, Taylor will absolutely bring his children there.
I will. And I will sign up for a Blockbuster card, and it will be fantastic to have that shit in my wallet again.
Yep. And you have to give your credit card and your driver's license.
Yep. And then on the back of the card has my picture like a Costco card and everything.
Oh, Taylor. You know what? Okay. So if it's like a Costco and you're buying the membership because people you're right. I absolutely want that piece of plastic. What are they doing in there? Maybe it's some sort of subscription service. Maybe you could like rent it like a library. Because again, you're just going into the store to buy candy and like remember what this was like. But like it's never going to be movie rentals again.
Maybe it's going to be like the rent to own kind of a thing. Like you go and you pick up the movie, and if you keep the movie for more than a week, you just pay for the movie.
Yeah, maybe you're right, Taylor. Maybe that's what it is. And then they sell it secondhand because the secondhand, right, it'd be like 4 for 20, 5 for 20, right? And those would all be marked off.
Yeah.
Inventory was a bitch. But yeah, okay.
I could see that being a thing, but
you stay up all night. You have to stay up all night. You have these big, long things. All of the technology of Blockbuster was ran off in 1988. So they were these guns, and you go watch the last Blockbuster documentary. When that store manager takes apart an old Microsoft computer and puts the other motherboard back in it, I was like, oh, she knows her shit. I can't tell you how many computers you would have Frankenstein with this person's gun, or this store has a working printer, but this store doesn't have a working printer, all of that stuff.
All right, so let's go into some of the questions that came about while we have our last couple minutes.
Are they asking about Blockbuster as well?
Not at all. None of them
are.
Okay, do we get a Sonyverse Spider-Man to battle their Spider-Verse characters? They've already tweeted. They've already said that when the Spider-Man that is revealed to be the Spider-Man of Venom, Morbius, all that stuff, when that is revealed, we'll know exactly where it takes place, which implies that it's a character we already know, which again makes me think it's Andrew Garfield.
It's going to be Andrew. You're absolutely right about Andrew Garfield. I hope this movie is better than all the other ones, because all those other movies you just mentioned were garbage. Morbius is not good.
I will argue Morbius had the potential of being good, but the movie was edited to being a piece of crap. I watched it. I could see the pieces that made it decent, but I also see that the poor editing is what drove it into the ground.
Sure, heard, and that's fine. But the answer is yes. The Madam Web movie is supposed to open the door to all of this stuff. All of this stuff is real for Sony. They have one character, it's Spider-Man, and they are going to milk it until the cows come home.
Okay, anything related to the Mortal Kombat sequel? Yes.
They got to make another game. Are they making another game?
No, yeah, the Mortal Kombat, whatever it is, they're supposed to come out this year. Mortal Kombat 12? Yeah. We know that the Mortal Kombat movie sequel that they're talking about, last summer, they officially signed and inked and did everything for the director and the writer. Right now, it is in pre-production. Filming should actually start within the next couple months.
I watched that first movie, enjoyed it a whole bunch. If they can get, we're talking about high quality action movies. We're talking about John Wick level people. The first movie had one John Wick level guy, right? The guy who played Sub-Zero. He's the great guy with the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, that was the other guy. The other Japanese actor was the one who played Scorpion.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, so good. He ruled as Scorpion.
But they need to get that quality of stuntman to get into this movie for it to be relevant the same way the other one was.
All right, so let's get a couple more questions in here. Excited for the Mario Brothers movie. It comes out this week. Are you going to see it, Michael?
It's going to be Minion jokes. It's universal, right? It's Universal. It's all. Taylor's going to tell me to see it, and my sister's going to tell me to see it. Maybe.
And you better see it. I've talked to so many people who.
Do you think we're going to get you think we get a tie-in game with this Mario doing the voices in the video game?
Not at all. But I've talked to a lot of people who already saw it at advanced screenings, and they said that this was basically like everything that they wanted from a Mario movie. If you are a fan of Mario, go see this movie. There'll be something in there that's going to blow your mind. I remember you.
It's going to be everything. You like
Donkey Kong a lot.
I like Donkey Kong.
They actually have a whole Donkey Kong world in this movie, where all the other characters are also in Easter egg form. So you will see
that's
everybody.
Very fun. That's very fun. Okay.
Everybody.
All right. You talked me into
the Donkey Kong character that had the sunglasses and the suit. He's like a plot point.
I love that guy.
Okay. Let's see what here.
Funky Kong.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know. Funky Kong was what? There was Funky Kong. There was the guy, the one who runs the airplane shop. Hot Kong.
Yeah.
Grandma Kong.
A lot of these are a lot of the same questions again.
Comic Kong.
Are we getting more trailers this week aside from Blue Beetle? Yeah, we got Secret Wars on Sunday, Blue Beetle on Monday, Into the Spider-Verse on Tuesday, and I assume we're getting the Barbie trailer this week too, and that's supposed to be really weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna let everybody know just right now that Barbie movie is gonna do bonkers numbers. Everyone's gonna go see that Barbie movie.
Yeah. Let me see. Why do you think these so-called DC fans think that they're saving the brand with their idiotic and toxic behaviors.
It is because you're putting fuel on the fire. When you tell them all of those mean things, they respond with more hatred. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just fighting for the fight. They want to keep going. They want to keep punching, but it's going to lead nowhere, and it's going to leave everybody hurt and bloody and bruised. And at the end of the day, there's just no place for it anymore.
Yeah, it's a messy thing, but I honestly think that a series of misunderstandings has empowered a lot of people to thinking they have more power than they do. We know that the Snyder Cut happened via combination of fans showing that they wanted it and the studio needing a flagship movie to release during the pandemic on an app that had no original content ready. So
it's so sad when you paint that picture. Like they didn't even like believe in it. They just needed the thing now. And this thing was basically 99% done.
There was a reason why, while they were making this project, while they were finishing it, they were marketing it as the end of the Snyderverse. Why they were saying in interviews that this is the end of the story. Like they started from the beginning saying that we're putting this out as this. And you could kind of tell from the very beginning that they were doing this just to get the Snyder fandom to subscribe to the app.
Yeah. And they succeeded.
They did. But it is what it is. But on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up here, everyone. We gave you 2 shows today. You should be happy about that. Tell us what you want next week because we have a lot to go about. Again, as you saw from the other show, head over to Kickstarter, scan that QR code, Batman Beyond Year 1. It's got a little over 2 weeks left, and it's sitting at 30% funded. This project looks amazing. We're going to talk a lot about it. It looks fantastic. I want this to happen. So go there, help make it happen, because they're using the same tech as The Mandalorian with those LED walls to make it believe that you're in Neo Gotham, and I'm all for it. So scan that QR code. Look at the tiers. Support what you want, even if it's $1 or $2. Just support. Help them make this project real. If you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/theculturenerd. You know what we're doing. We've already gone over this tag dozens of times now, so help us keep the lights on. Do what you can. I have been your host, my co-host, Michael Santel. Thank you for the Patreon supporters who do support us and help us keep those lights on. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you all next week. And if you're a fan of the channel, we got tomorrow the Through the Monocle. They're going over the final movie of Harry Potter. Both parts, Deathly Hallows parts 1 and 2. So if you like those movies and you want to hear those guys talk about it, check it out. But other than that, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.